Welcome to Buckets. My name's Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network, and this is your NBA Finals Celtics Warriors Game 1 betting preview. Glad to have you along with us. If you like the show, please hit us up on YouTube. Go to the Action Network YouTube page. You can find a video version of the show as well. Give us those 5-star reviews. It'd be so nice of you. We've gained such a following. Like, we have drugged this podcast to where we have built a following. And those of you that hit us on Twitter, it means so much to us to know you guys are listening. So please, even if you don't give us a 5-star review, even if you don't hit the like button on YouTube, even if you don't download the Action Network app, which you absolutely need to do, because the best way for you to track your bets and follow my co-host for today's episode's picks, the best way for you to let us know is just tell us, just hit us up and be like, hey, listen to the show, loved it, tailed you, Brandon's a genius, it's awesome. Matt, you're terrible. Just do it. Means so much to us. Joining me today, Brandon Anderson, Joe Delara, NBA analysts. We're going to talk about game 1 between the Celtics and Warriors. If you have not yet, listen to our series preview where we gave our best bets for the series. We are all, spoiler alert, on the Celtics for that series. But a big part of Joe and Brandon's is tied to game 1 because they are going to limit all of their money down to the outcome of one finals game, as they have taken the Warriors to win game 1 and the Celtics to win the series at plus 400. That's their best bet for the NBA Finals. Let's go ahead and start here. Brandon, I know that you like the Warriors to win the game. What about the cover? The Warriors are minus 3.5 on this game. That is, I think, a pretty sharp line, all things considered. I've got this around 3.2, so it's right within the margin of liking Boston a little bit. Currently in the Action Network app, 83% of the tickets are on Golden State, 87% of the money are on Golden State in the early betting. Totals 211.5 hasn't moved. No movement there, no movement on the spread or the total. That I think is a good indicator of how sharp this line is. What are your best bets from a spread or total perspective for game 1, Warriors Celtics?
I'm keeping it easy. I'm going to take the Warriors to win and cover the 3.5. I like it. I like it a lot. I'm probably playing multiple units on Warriors win and cover in game 1. This is one of my favorite cover bets from the playoffs so far.
Which you never do because you have to pay 100. You have to pay the dime on it, which
painful. But I'm not playing the money line. What I never do is play the favorite on the money line. That's the one thing that I almost always stay away from. But I like the cover here. I don't have a great angle on the total yet. I think I might just kind of see where game 1 plays out and adjust from there.
All right, we'll come back to you about why you like Warriors minus 3.5. Joe Delara, what's your best bet for Warriors Celtics game 1?
I'm obviously also tied to the Warriors here. I think they cover that minus 3.5. I like their rest advantage here, and I'm not going to lay the extra money on the money line. So I'll take the 3.5, lay those points with the home favorite here.
I had a bet on 3.5 last night that I cashed out. I am staying away from the side on this game. I will play props and I will play total. I'm not going to play side. I'm just a little concerned here about the matchup. If we like Boston so much, I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around why, if I like Boston, and I think Boston takes one of the first 2 in Golden State, why I would be betting against that specifically in a game 1 environment. So Brandon, why do you like this spot so much for the Warriors? Talk me into it.
Okay, so it's 2 things. So let's start with the first one. Joe mentioned the rest disadvantage, not just rest disadvantage, although it's, they do still get Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off with a travel day before they get to Thursday in Golden State. Still is a disadvantage, but Boston is coming off back-to-back grueling physical 7-game series. And our guy, Raheem Palmer, did the work on it. Teams after game 7 in the following game 1. Obviously, that means they won game 7. But since 1988, they're 32-51 straight up in the following game 1. So only 38.5% getting the win. I think that it's only 4-8 when those are both road wins, when they're won on the road in game 1 and then hit the road again. So that's 33%, slightly worse. It's not necessarily a death knell for the series. Teams that won game 7 are 43% in the series, 36 and 47. So they're more likely historically to win the series than they are to win game one. Since 1988, so same stretch, in the NBA Finals, teams who won Game 7 to get into the finals are 2-5 straight up in Game 1. Only 29%, but they are 4-3, winning the series. So there is a lot of historical precedent here for a team just getting there, not getting Game 1, but still coming back to take the series. That was part of what I liked on the series bet. So you've got the Game 7 rest disadvantage. That's one thing. The other thing is a bet that we had last round for the Warriors. And to be fair, the Mavs were coming off Game 7 as well. But we talked about that since the Warriors became the Warriors, so 2015 playoffs forward, this version of the team, Golden State is now 21-2 straight up in Game 1s during that span. They only ever lost 2 Game 1s this whole long run. And as a home favorite by single digits, they are 9-2 against the spread, covering by 7.5 points a game during that span. So what we know about the Warriors is that they are the most unique offense in the league, and it takes time to get used to it and to figure out your plan. And as the series goes along, Golden State gets more vulnerable to a very good defense who can key in on them. That is part of why I'm very worried about them in the series. But Game 1 against a tired team, not just physically, mentally, all the switches, all the communicating, all of that, I think plays its toll on Boston in the second half. That's why I really like Golden State. It's a schedule spot here, and all the cutting and all the movement, all that stuff, it just takes some time for Boston to get used to, even as ready as they will be.
I'm going to push back a little bit on your logic here. I don't mind the bet. I'm just going to push back a little bit on the logic.
Okay.
So playing 7 games and then 7 games again was exhausting, and they're beat up and they're tired and they play these physical series. And so that's going to impact them in Game 1. And then it's just going to stop impacting them?
No, certainly not. It's going to impact them by far the most in Game 1. When the game tips off for Game 2, it will have been a full 7 days since Game 7 happened. And it doesn't just all go away, but there's one game in between all of that. And with the gaps in between games, the effect of the attrition that Boston had, I think, is going to slowly get less as the finals goes on because the games are a little spread out.
So you think 2 days in between these games is more impactful than the 3 to 4 days that they get between Game 7 and Game 1?
I think that as the series goes on, the Game 7 effect slowly wears down because that is historically what the numbers have told us happens.
Okay, let's go there. Historically, teams that lose Game 1 have not won the series. Historically, teams that go down 2-1 have not won the series. Historically, teams on the road have not won Game 7, and you didn't care about any of those things in the prior round.
That's not true. I didn't care about those things once it was Game 7, and the trend that you're talking about is if a team is up 1-0, right now, after Game 1, that trend matters because I'm up a game. It's not just that matters. That doesn't matter after Game 5 and Game 6. It matters right now when I'm up a game. Same as after Game 3. If I'm up 2-1, I am up a game. That is the best advantage I can have, is not having to win a game. No matter what, that is always the best thing you can do. When it gets to Game 7, I didn't care about those trends because now the up a game is gone. You lost your advantage. It didn't matter that you led or trailed at some point. It's gone now. Those trends do matter. I don't love that Boston would be down a game here. Look, if the finals were a week from now or 2 weeks from now, full rest, full health, and Boston is the home team instead of Golden State, I would say like Celtics in 5 on the series is what I would say for the series pick. The fact that I have this stretching out is because of Golden State's advantage in Game 1, possible advantage in Game 7 if it gets there. That's what makes it closer. But for Game 1 itself, I just think that it is not just the schedule thing, but also, do you agree? Do you have credit to the Warriors game one historical thing? What about that side of how tough they are early in the series versus later?
No, that's a great point. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
For
I'm
me,
with you on
it's
there's a
more
shock.
that.
There's a shock to the system that of guarding
Yes,
of guarding them in that place. Joe, I want to go to you. I'm sure that most of Brandon's points are your own. Is there anything in there that you think additionally makes you lean towards Boston in the spot or towards Golden State in the spot?
Yeah, like not to reiterate because I'm not going to. But I think I saw the stat, and the Warriors as a team have played over 140 finals games. The Boston Celtics as a roster have played 0. So I'm not like super big on the whole like experience always matters, but I think that in game one, when you have these trends, like, and you add this as just another thing onto it, there's going to be some nerves. And if the Celtics come out flat right away, I can see Golden State just running away with it, like just like bringing out a hammer, especially in like the first quarter, because they're comfortable. They've been there. They're like, we're back. Like they have that moxie, like they've been there and they've had days to like, I think the rest matters not so much in terms of physicality and like recovering your body, but also taking a little bit of a mental break. Like the Celtics have not had the opportunity to do that really since they swept the Nets. They played 7, and then the last series really every other day you were playing a game. Whereas with the Warriors, now they have this little bit of an extended break. They've got a chance to really look. They got a chance to watch how the Celtics just played Miami, and they have this experience. They know what it's like to go through media days. They know what it's like to go through the finals. They know what it's like to do this travel, and they're doing it at home. So I think that they're going to be more comfortable in game one. So I think I might look to bet them even in the first quarter, probably around -1, just to see if they can get off to like a really hot start against Boston, who might be like a little flat after, what's really been emotional for all of them.
I think I'm going to play first half Warriors based off of that. I think I like that line maybe the best. You should be able to get a pretty good number on that. It allows the possibility of like Boston comes out and they hit their first like 6 threes, or they hit 3 of their first like 8 threes, right, or whatever, and like they're just chucking it up, and it's like all of a sudden it's like you hear Mike Breen like again, all those type of things. And then second quarter we talked about how we think there's a bench advantage for Golden State. They get them back into it, and then the death lineup closes, and the Warriors aren't prepared for that, or the Celtics aren't prepared for that, and the Warriors take a lead into halftime. I think I'm going to play first half.
Yeah, it's -1.5. I think.
Do what?
-1.5.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'm still just nervous about the idea of being like, we think this team's going to win, but not here. This is the one that they don't win. But as an extension, Brandon, I'll ask you this: how much are you going to be on Boston in game 2?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Let's say that you're right. Let's say you're right, and Warriors win this game by 10.
Yeah, I think I will like Boston a lot in game 2, because the things that we know in that scenario is 2 things. And this actually is part of my cap on the series. Not only do we know how great Boston is coming off a loss, like we just saw that in game 7, we've seen they're 6-0 in the playoffs now coming off a loss. And until game 7 closed late, they've won very comfortably in all of those games. So we know how focused they come out after a loss. I don't have the number for it here, but don't we also see the opposite of that with the Warriors? Like the Warriors coming out and doing the thing Joe just said, making all their shots, and suddenly they're way up at halftime, and they're like, oh man, this is great. We're back in the finals. We won by 15 and we got this. And the Warriors kind of do the we got this thing. And then I think they come out flat in game 2, like, oh, we got this. We'll just be the Warriors when we need to. We'll hit all of our shots when we need to. Oh no, this is a much different defense than what we have been facing now that they have kind of adjusted and locked in a little bit. And I think the combination then could be very dangerous for them. And the numbers I said about the Warriors for game 1, they're almost as strong in game 2s in the series, but the advantage gets a lot less later in conference finals and finals. And they had some finals, I think, where they won game 1 and then lost the second one at home. So I would like that spot a lot. And that's why I think Boston would have a very good chance of getting the second game. and then going home with a chance to win one or both and really take a great spot in the series.
Golden State is 11-8 at 58% against the spread after a win in game one when they were at home in game two. So they have not necessarily struggled in that spot, but this is obviously, I think the matchup probably dictates that and I think on some level, if your prior is the Warriors are going to win game one, the Celtics are going to win the series, I will say, I will ask this. Do you see the Celtics winning in 6 if they lose games 1 and 2?
I mean, I think that's a tough ask because you have to win all 4 games.
Four straight versus Golden State.
I think they'd have to.
I mean, that's why for me, that's why I'm not doing the Celtics -1.5 a series bet. That was your best bet, Matt, because I think that the Celtics could still win the series down 0-2. I mean, they're not in great shape, of course, but I think they could still win those 4, or I think that they could go to Golden State and win game 7. Like, I want the more outs. So I know that sounds weird because I'm limiting myself by taking the game 1 thing, but part of what I said on the series preview, of all the games in the series, the one series that I feel most confident in who wins a game is game 1 for Golden State. Okay. So I don't feel like I'm really tying my series position to this one specific outcome. I mean, I am. So I guess I should feel that way. I am tying it to a specific outcome.
I'm literally doing that.
I don't feel bound by that because I'm binding it by the thing I'm most confident in the series. And then second most confident is Celtics still winning it.
Will you bet the Celtics series price if Warriors win game 1?
Very likely, yes. I will probably bet Celtics series or Celtics -1.5, depending on what the numbers are for those. Because that I will want the number then. That's why I'm not betting just a Celtics series price right now, because I expect the number to be better.
I think the thing is too with the game 1 series bet at +400 at MGM, the Celtics are like +130 to win the series right now. If they lose game 1, we're still not getting to +400. If they lose game 2, we still might not get to +400. And then at that point, it's like, because they're going back home to Boston, and you're going to say, the only way that I'm going to get a better number than this is if they go down 0-3. And then at that point, like you're going to lose anyway. So like, I don't think that, I mean, Golden State can blow a 3-0 lead, I guess, but like, but I don't know. I struggle to see getting better value when I feel very comfortable with Golden State in game 1.
This series, unlike others, will present you with more opportunities to do the game X and win series. You'll be able to get that probably through games 4 in this series. So you're going to have like a lot of, especially Brandon, if you want that, you can wait till after game 1, assume the Warriors win, take Celtics win game 2 and series on the road, and you'll get a pretty hefty number.
I hadn't thought of that. That's a good point. And I think too, I want to correct a thing. This wasn't on this podcast. We said on the previous one, you guys going to push me on, but what if Boston wins game 1? And Matt, this is kind of your thing. Why, Joe and Brandon, how can you bet the Warriors game 1 if you like Boston so much in the series? Shouldn't you just be taking a Boston line? So we kind of talked through it. I think we agreed if Boston win game 1, there's something like a -140 after game 1 for the series. And so that feels like the value is gone. It just dawned on me. That's not at all how I feel about it. If Boston wins game 1 and is -140, I will pay the -140 and bet a lot on Boston, because in that scenario, I have Boston as nearly a 75% chance to win the series.
Sure.
And that would be a -300, and they won't be anywhere near that. So I will not, that's why I don't mind doing the 4-1 now, because it lets me know I get to bet again later. Like I can still play later since I get the high payout if it's there. If Boston wins game 1, I think Golden State is in big, big trouble.
I will go the other way, by the way. If Boston wins game 1, I'm absolutely betting Warriors. So
interesting.
Game 2, that makes sense.
I'll do the game 2 in the series. At that point, it'll be too good.
Game 2 in the series, both Warriors. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it'll be too good of a price for me. I see.
Golden
State's not going to get shook. Like they're just not like this is where the experience gap matters. Is like, and this is honestly one of the things with the Celtics, I'll say too, they may get shook by the bright lights and they're going to play that finals promo before the game. And honestly, it gives you chills. Like having been in the building, it gives you chills when they play the finals promo with Bird and Russell and all those guys. Like it gets you, like it feels different Like the Celtics are not prepared for what it feels like. It is different. But in their credit, they went down 1-0. They went down 2-1. Like going down 2-1 and coming back is massive. Like they've had all these opportunities to be shook, and because they worked their way out of it, they've proven themselves like we don't have to, there's no reason to get shook about it. But I don't think Golden State gets shook either. On the total, I'll tell you, I lean towards the over. I know that these are two great defensive teams, but I feel like Boston's plan is going to be very much, I think game 7 is actually kind of indicative of this. When Boston was trying to really set the tone, they were running. When Golden State wants to set the tone, they are running. And I think that the pace actually could be pretty high for this game. Mm-hmm. And at 210, 211, I think there's real value on the over. I like these two defenses, but I think in terms of the efficiency, there's going to be enough 3-pointers. When they do score, it's going to be high efficiency situation, 3s and 1s, layups, things like that. I think we're going to see turnovers, 24 shot clock violations more than we're going to see just like missed 2-pointers. So from that perspective, I actually, I like the over here to a certain degree. I'll probably go light on it, but I do like the over as a combined play for game 1. Joe, you have any thoughts on that?
I get what you're saying. I struggle with the total here just because the defenses are so good.
Yeah.
But I might look to play maybe a team total. Maybe I'll look at the Warriors team total, because I think this is a little low. So I think their team total is like 105. I don't think that doesn't feel crazy in this spot. Even though Boston's defense is excellent, just because I think they're going to be able to find some pressure points, some weak spots that Boston's just not ready for after playing whatever Miami's offense is.
Yeah,
so,
I think on the total, the one, I think the question you need to ask if you want to play the total is how much do you buy the coming off a game 7 thing? If you buy it, I think that probably plays out in the second half, and that maybe Boston maybe Boston, the things get away a little bit. So if you buy the game 7 thing, then I think, Matt, you play your over first half only, because you don't want to mess around with the second half and Boston just suddenly can't score anymore.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I like that.
But if you don't, then I think you just go for the whole thing.
I like that. I actually like that. I'm gonna play that. Thank you, Brandon. That helps quite a bit. Let's do props, because you guys are absolute prop destroyers of worlds. Joe, you got some props for me for game 1?
Yeah. So the first bet that I'm looking at is there's a little bit of juice here, but on FanDuel, I like Klay Thompson under 27.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I think the line's just a little high. In the postseason, he's only gone over this in 6 of 16 games. And considering Boston's defense is good, and like the one thing that I think they can do is really defend the perimeter pretty well. So I think that this isn't really a spot that I like Klay to go over this line. It's a little bit higher on FanDuel, which I think is interesting, because his line is 27.5 on FanDuel. It's 26.5 on DraftKings. And I feel like it's going to trend. Like people are going to want to bet this over, but when you really look at what Klay does, he can put together some ancillary stats with the rebounds and the assists. But if he does, you're kind of getting a little bit extra, in my opinion, with, in terms of his points, because if he's not scoring, then I don't think you're hitting this line anyway. And I think that if you look at the last series against Dallas, these numbers are a little bit inflated especially in terms of his rebounds, because Dallas played so small. So I think against Boston, he's going to struggle to get these rebounds. I think he's going to struggle to set up some other guys. So I like the under 27.5 points, rebounds, and assist spot.
Brandon, what do you got?
I'll start with just an easy one. I got Al Horford over 2.5 steals plus blocks. He's gone over that in 8 of the last 13 games. So the last 2 rounds. He's playing a lot of minutes. He's going to play a lot of minutes here. He's plus 145 to do that. And he's over 8 of the last 13. He's averaged 2.7 stocks during that stretch. I think probably I like the bet better in future games, because if I'm leaning into my game 7 thing, then it's not as great of a play here. Maybe the minutes get a little less in a blowout, or just because they're tired or whatever. But I think at plus 145, Horford's been good. We saw in game 7, he had a couple key blocks there, and he just is going to be a key defender in space there. So I like that one. The other one for me is Jordan Poole. We talked about Poole on the series preview. Poole has been great early in series and then faded hard late in the series. We don't know if he'll fade here, but games 1, 2, and 3 so far in the playoffs, Poole is averaging 24 points per game. And there's some factors in there. Part of it is that he was big against Denver early when Steph was coming off the bench. But 24 points a game compared to 11.1 points a game from games 4 forward. And the other thing with Poole is he has been a real bellwether of did Golden State win tonight? Because Steph is going to get his and Clay is going to get his too. But if Jordan Poole goes off for 20-25 on top of all that, the Warriors probably won. And Jordan Poole is really good in home games, and that's where the Warriors have been invincible too. So Jordan Poole, 20 points. I'm taking the alternate line, 20 points or more. In games 1, 2, and 3, he has 19 or more points, all but one game so far in the playoffs, 8 out of 9. So you can get that at plus 240 at FanDuel, 20 or more points. But because the whole point is that when Poole goes off, the Warriors win, or vice versa, I'm playing the win also. So just money line, not cover. Jordan Poole, 20 points in a win is plus 377. And he has done that so far in 7 out of 9 games early in the series. So I think that's my favorite prop for game 1.
I like that one a lot.
Yeah, that sounds right. Like if they're caught off guard, if we I mean, a lot of this is correlational, right? And like if one thing goes sideways, it all goes sideways. But if the Celtics aren't caught off guard, then Jordan Poole doesn't go off. And if Jordan Poole doesn't go off, then the Warriors may not win. And it all kind of goes sideways. But I do kind of think that Poole, I like the Poole prop quite a bit. I'll probably play that one as well as the Warriors first half and the over on the first half.
Yeah.
That makes the best bets possible. I want to ask you if there's one point, who do you think is not going to have a good offensive series for the Boston Celtics? So when I look at it, I think Robert Williams is going to have a tough time. So I may look at unders, but I want to probably wait until after game 1 to see how that plays out. But that's my inclination, is that 1, Williams is banged up. 2, so it's hard to get a line on him. 2, if there's going to be an adjustment, I think it's going to have to be Boston going smaller. I kind of like all Horford overs for the series, but then I also bet him for finals MVP. So it's obviously I like all those. As far as unders, I may look at Grant Williams to see if we can get a number on Grant Williams unders, just based off of, I do not think that he is good enough defensively to hang versus Golden State. And I do think that they're going to look at there's 2 ways of looking at it. Oh, Grant Williams is like the Draymond of the Celtics. Or you can look at it and go, yeah, in that Grant Williams is like Draymond, but Draymond's way, 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 way better. And you should never like that matchup. Do you have any thoughts on either of those angles as far as a play, Joe?
I get what you're saying. I think that I would definitely want to see how they play Robert Williams. I think that the guy that might struggle in this series, though, for Boston it could be Jaylen Brown, just because of the way the Warriors can play defense. And I think that, you talked about it a lot in the last pod, but, just how he can't really dribble. And if he can't dribble and actually make a problem of the pressure points, which is really Jordan Poole on the perimeter, I think that Brown might struggle here. So, he obviously is a great shooter, but if the Warriors are able to lock down the 3-point line, which they've been pretty successful doing, I think that's going to be a tough spot. I mean, they just locked down the 3-point line against the Mavericks for the majority of the series, and the Mavs were shooting over half their shots from 3, and they were only shooting about 33%. So I think that guys that specialize in 3-pointers, so Brown's a great 3-point shooter. And like you said, Grant Williams also can shoot threes. Those guys might struggle against Golden State here.
Yeah,
Brandon,
Matt,
any thoughts on that?
I'm with you on the Horford stuff. I'm looking for Horford overs for the same reason. I think Robert Williams and Kevon Looney, I think, are a bit minimized in the series. I'm not sure about Grant Williams yet, but we'll see with him. but I think you make a good, like you can be like Draymond Green, but being actual Draymond Green seems better. That seems like the thing to be. So Horford over rebounds, 9.5 is the line. He's gone over that 8 out of the last 13, 10.2 rebounds a game. Over stocks, I mentioned he's had at least 3 assists in, I think, all but one of these last 13 games.
Yeah.
So assists, rebounds, stocks, depending on where things go early, those are all kind of Horford angles. And then the other Boston angle that I'm looking for, but not playing yet, Jason Tatum's assist line is 4.5. That's too low. He's at least 4 in all but one playoff game so far. But here's what I noticed. He's over 4.5 assists in 11 out of 12 wins. He's under it in 4 out of 6 losses. And since I like Golden State to win here, this is not a spot for me to bet that. But I would love to see Jason Tatum go low on assists in a Golden State win. And then he's averaging 6.6 assists per game in the playoffs in wins. So I'm looking for that one later as I like Boston in the series.
Yeah.
So I got one more for you before we get out of here. Versus the Dallas Mavericks, I played early in the series consistently and throughout it, honestly. I played Andrew Wiggins overs.
Okay.
Andrew Wiggins, points, rebounds, assists for game 1, 24.5 at -104. I've got FanDuel. He had 27 in one of the games that he played versus the Celtics earlier this season. They were missing some guys, so that obviously factors in. If there is one player that benefits against the switching defense, it is Andrew Wiggins. Because if you're going to lose a guy, you're going to lose whoever is screening for Curry on the back screen, because you're both worried about trying to catch up to the shooter, whether it's Steph or Clay or Poole. You're both like, I thought you were switching on him. And if you're going to make a mistake and you're unsure, you're always going to the shooter in that spot. You're going to, and that means if you're switching everything, which we expect them to have to do, that means the underneath is open. I'll say this, if Robert Williams plays, like there's a correlational here of Robert Williams overs, Andrew Wiggins unders. Yeah. Andrew Wiggins overs, Robert Williams unders, because that means that Williams is not there to play drop defense. The back line is exposed and Wiggins can get points. Also, this is a sneaky one. Jaylen Brown is more of a defensive liability than people are kind of realizing. So everyone remembers Giannis posting him up, but it's Giannis. What are you going to do? It's Giannis. Except that other guys have had success versus Giannis, especially on getting to his spots, and Jaylen wasn't able to. Jaylen was the guy that Jimmy Butler cooked. Jaylen was the guy that Tyler Hero cooked. Like, if there's a guy, it's Jaylen in the starting unit. And Jaylen's also he will probably guard Clay a lot of the time. But I actually think Tatum will guard Clay a significant more of the time while Smart guards Curry. And so Jaylen then probably moves to Wiggins. In the 3-guard lineups, he'll guard Poole. But I think there's actually a good chance for that. Like, they will give Wiggins, they genuinely like Wiggins enough to do this. They will give Wiggins like elbow post-ups versus Jaylen Brown. And they're not low percentage opportunities given how Jaylen has defended in these playoffs. I like the over for Andrew Wiggins, points, rebounds, assists, 24.5.
I don't mind that one. The only hesitation I would say is the game he had the highest point total in the season. He hit 5 threes. So I don't know that you want to read too much into that, but I agree. Like, I've been very impressed again as a resident Wiggins hater, as a Timberwolves fan who has seen the whole thing. Wiggins has really punished when they get the switch, and when he got Brunson or somebody switched onto him, you're right. The Golden State is like, hey, go get it, buddy. And he was punishing them over and over. So Boston doesn't have those mismatches as much, but I think your angle is good on Wiggins. And I think too, he's been a monster on offensive glass so far in the playoffs. So I think that helps. You want the rebounds in there too.
Yeah, I was going to say, I would probably lay off of the assists, because the assist line, I think, is popping that up. Like, his PR line, I think, is set at 22.5 versus PRA is at 24.5. And he's really not even getting 2 assists enough for it to be worth like adding that in there.
Okay.
He's only gotten 2 like assists or more in 7 of 16 games. And he's only gone over that he's only got 3 or more in 3 of 16 playoff games. Okay. So I think you're better off, if you're going to play the points and the rebounds. My one concern is that he kept going over his like points total, but the margins were like thin. Like it's like they moved him to 16 and a half. He's at 15 and a half, I think, at FanDuel right now, and 16 and a half, like somewhere else. Like it depends. We'll see how the market kind of settles, but like he's still only 50% at the 16 and a half. So I'm a little like nervous against Boston's defense, which is great, like is really good. And I think if they're going to play big and they play drop, then that's obviously not great for him.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my concern with Wiggins. Because and then if Robert Williams is in, that's obviously going to hurt his rebounding chances too. So I'm a little nervous about it now. I'm hoping that because this line's adjusted over the course of the playoffs, like I think his line in the playoffs was opened towards the beginning of the playoffs at like 13 and a half, 14 and a half. And now like it's gone up to 16 and a half. And like he's hitting it still, but I'm just nervous about this matchup against Boston, where I totally get what you're saying about he's the guy that you're going to miss, but he's still not going over this at like such a clip. Like in the whole playoffs, he's got one game at 27 and another at 20, and everything else is underneath that. So like, even if he clears the 16 and a half or whatever, like you're not going to get a ton more points than you need to cover this prop, I feel. So I think the margins are thin, but it makes me a little nervous here.
Counterpoint, you bet consistently on Scotty Barnes assists versus with a terrible Raptors offense, and on threes with Scotty Barnes being a terrible 3-point shooter. So I don't want to hear it from you, Joe Dolera. All right, let's gonna wrap it up for the game one buckets. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Hope you guys have enjoyed your holiday. We'll be back all this week. I've got guests lined up, more coming for you. We're gonna have an Action Network podcast. We're gonna have all these types of things. Lots to get to as we continue our track towards game one of the NBA Finals on Thursday. Make sure to check out the Action Network app so you can follow and track both Joe and Brandon's bets. For Joe Dolera and Brandon Anderson, my name's Matt Moore. Let's get buckets.